Black screen. Silence. Then a single sound. The soft, innocent ping of one email notification. Then another. Then 10. Then 50. The notification counter climbing in real time. The numbers accelerating like something has gone terribly, beautifully wrong at exactly 9:04 on a Tuesday morning. An intern at one of the most prestigious PR firms in the country sent an email. The email appeared on screen, word by word, like it was being typed in real time. Girly, this man is fine. Jaw could cut glass. But he seems like the type to say, per my last email, during an argument. Absolutely unhinged levels of attractive. Would not survive a one-on-one meeting. Sending this while sitting 10 feet from him. Pray for me. She sent it to her best friend. She did not send it to her best friend. Quick cuts. No dialogue. Pure chaos. The notification counter hitting 200. Then 300. Then 438. The sound of an open-plan office going from normal Tuesday morning noise to complete, breathless silence. One person laughing. Then two. Then what sounded like an entire floor of people trying desperately not to laugh and failing at it completely. A Slack channel notification appeared. Per my last email, was now trending company-wide. An assistant pressed her lips together so hard she was shaking. And then, a pair of very expensive shoes walking very deliberately down a very quiet hallway. 438 employees received that email, including the CEO. His name was Malik Cole, and this, against every law of professional survival, was where their story began. The camera moved slowly now. A young woman walking down that same hallway toward a closed office door. She was holding a bag of hot Cheetos like it was the only thing standing between her and certain death. Her face carried the specific expression of someone who had fully accepted their fate and decided to meet it with their chin up and their snacks out. Her name was Zara Banks, 24 years old. First in her family to work in a building like this. 2 side hustles, 1 partial scholarship, and more student loan debt than she liked to think about before 9 a.m. She had survived a lot of things. She had never survived anything like Malik Cole. She reached the door, took a breath, knocked, cut to black. Reply all was a mistake. That a story about 2 people who built perfect walls and then had the audacity to be surprised when someone climbed them. Music began, warm, jazzy, with just enough chaos underneath it to let you know this was not going to be a quiet ride. Before Zara walked through that door, before Malik said the thing that would change everything, before 438 employees became the most invested workplace audience in the history of professional disasters, there was something important to say. If you have ever sent something to the wrong person, this story is for you. If you have ever deleted the honest draft and sent the polished one instead, this story is for you. If you have ever stood outside a door holding a snack for emotional support and called it a plan, this story is especially, specifically, personally for you. So here was the ask. Hit subscribe right now before the ending hit, and it was too late to process it properly. Turn on notifications because this story had layers, and nobody wanted to find out from a comment section that they missed something. And drop a number in the comments. Any number between 1 and 17. By the time this was over, the reason would make complete sense. Zara was already in the office. There was no more time to wait. She walked in, and the room did what Malik Cole's office always did to people. It made them feel immediately, acutely aware of how composed they were not. The space was immaculate, minimalist, every surface deliberate, the kind of environment that communicated power without appearing to try, which meant someone had tried very, very hard. Malik was at his desk. He did not look up immediately. This was intentional. Zara understood this immediately. She stood. She waited. She gripped the Cheetos. Malik Cole had built Cole Media Group. From a struggling mid-size agency into one of the most powerful black-owned media companies in the country. He had done it by being 3 steps ahead of everyone in every room. He communicated in bullet points. He managed in frameworks. He protected everything he built with the precision of a man who understood, consciously or not, that the margin for error was never as wide for him as it was for others. He was not cold. He was careful. There was a difference. Zara Banks was about to find it. When Malik finally looked up, he looked at her, then at the Cheetos, then back at her. The silence that followed was long enough to function as its own complete sentence. The jaw comment, he said. A pause. Was that necessary? It was not a question. It was a verdict being read aloud by a man who already knew the answer, and was giving her the opportunity to confirm it formally. Zara, who had been preparing a response for the entire walk down the hallway, found that every version of it had evaporated. What came out was the only thing she actually had. No, sir. Another pause. Longer this time. The kind of pause that had weight and texture and a personality of its own. Accurate, though. Zara blinked, in 9 words. Malik Cole had told Zara Banks 3 things. 1. He had read the email. 2. He was not angry. 3. He was going to be a problem. She did not know yet that she was going to be an equally matched problem right back. She left the office still employed. Inexplicably, she stood in the hallway afterward and looked at her Cheetos and looked back at the closed door and could not produce a single logical explanation for what had just happened. She kept her job. Malik Cole had no logical explanation for this decision that he was willing to put in writing. Which, for a man who put everything in writing, said everything. The letter from Grandma Loretta Cole arrived on a Wednesday. Malik's assistant read it aloud with the tone of someone delivering a royal decree that also happened to be a threat, which was exactly what it was. Grandma Loretta Cole had been running the Cole family's business since 1987. Not the media company. The family. She operated via handwritten letters delivered by courier, which she considered more authoritative than email and more dramatic than a phone call. She was correct on both counts. The letter's terms were not negotiable. Show up to the family reunion with someone real, someone serious, or be written out of the will entirely. No extensions. No amendments. No bullet-pointed counterproposal. Malik read it twice. He then looked at the Instagram story his situationship had posted 43 minutes earlier. A gif of a door closing, captioned simply with a peace sign emoji, with the expression of a man applying financial analysis to an irreversible personal situation. He called an emergency PR meeting. The meeting lasted 40 minutes and produced one viable suggestion from his assistant, delivered quietly at the end after everyone else had spoken. "What about the intern?" she said. "She already told 438 people she finds you attractive. Saves the entire vetting process." Malik looked at her for a long time. "That is the worst idea I've ever heard," he said. 45 minutes later, he was standing at Zara's intern desk. Zara looked up from her computer. Looked at him. Looked around the room to confirm this was happening to her specifically and not to someone standing behind her. "I have a business proposition," Malik said. What followed was the most unusual negotiation in the history of Cole Media Group. Malik had talking points. Zara had questions that were not on the talking points. She asked about his love language before he had finished explaining the arrangement. She asked if they needed a song. She asked what he called her in front of his family. She asked if his grandmother was the type to cry at weddings or the type to audit them. Malik answered none of these questions because they were not in his framework. The NDA was 17 pages. Zara asked if there was a summary version. "There is not," Malik said. She signed it anyway. Her student loans were not playing with her. Also, she had never been to a rich family reunion, and she had significant questions about the rumored crawfish boil. Malik left. Zara opened her phone immediately to text her best friend everything. The briefing document she hadn't seen yet, the NDA, all of it. She typed with the speed of a woman who had been holding information hostage for 20 minutes and could no longer contain it. She hit send. The text went to Malik. His phone buzzed. He looked at it. He looked up across the office floor toward where she was sitting. He looked back at his phone. It read, "Girlie, he just asked me to be his fake wife." The jaw man. I said yes. "I am unwell. Send prayers and snacks." Malik Cole stared at that text for 11 seconds. Then he did something his assistant had not seen him do in 6 years of working for him. He almost smiled. Almost. He put his phone face down on his desk and returned to his emails with the careful discipline of a man ignoring something that had already started. The briefing document was presented 2 days before the reunion. Malik brought it to a conference room, set it on the table between them, and slid it toward Zara with the quiet confidence of a man who had solved the problem. It was color-coded. It was laminated. It had tabs. It had a glossary. The 3-page appendix on Grandma Loretta's known interrogation tactics alone was more thorough than most academic dissertations. Zara picked it up, flipped through it, stopped at page 4. "So this is cute," she said. "Very thorough. Very you. Quick question though, did you include a vibe guide?" Malik's expression did not change. "A what? A vibe guide? Like, what's your love language?" What do you call me in front of your family? Do we have a song? Because people are going to ask, Malik. Your grandmother is going to ask. Your aunties are going to ask. Your cousin who's had 3 glasses of Hennessy since noon is definitely going to ask. Page 11 covers conversational contingencies. Page 11, Zara said, reading aloud, says deflect personal inquiries with 68% factual responses and 32% redirection. She put the document down and looked at him. Malik, that is not a relationship. That is a press release. It's a framework. It's a cry for help. Malik opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again. Something was happening in his left eye that had never happened in a professional setting before. What, he said carefully, is a vibe guide. Zara pulled out her phone and opened a new note. She titled it Malik's Personality, Emergency Installation, and began typing while he watched with the expression of a man watching someone perform surgery on something he wasn't sure he wanted operated on. The note grew. His eye twitched. The silence between them filled with the specific sound of a very organized man confronting the limits of organization. Then Zara looked up and asked the question that didn't belong to the comedy at all. Why haven't you just found someone real to bring? You're Malik Cole. You could have anyone. The room changed. A small shift, like a temperature dropping by 2 degrees. Something moved through Malik's face. Not quickly enough to catch fully, but enough to notice. That's the problem, he said that he left before she could respond. The conference room door closed behind him with a quiet click that felt much louder than it was. Zara sat with that sentence and a half-empty bag of hot Cheetos for the rest of the evening. She told herself it wasn't interesting. She told herself this was a transaction. She told herself a lot of things that Tuesday evening that she would stop believing by Thursday. The drive to the reunion was quiet in the way that 2 people who have things to say and aren't saying them make things quiet. Malik had a color-coded itinerary. Zara had her phone and a voice note from her best friend that said, among other things, "You are going to fall in love with him, and I need you to know I called it right now." "I am not going to fall in love with him," Zara said aloud. To nobody. To the window. She was going to fall in love with him. The Cole family reunion announced itself before they arrived. The sound of it, the energy of it, the specific frequency of a large black family gathered together with food and music and decades of shared history vibrating through the air like a living thing. Malik's shoulders did something almost imperceptible as they pulled up, relaxed by 1 degree. Zara noticed. She filed it away without commenting, which was perhaps the most disciplined thing she did the entire weekend. The family arrived in full. Malik's brother Deshaun appeared first, 28 years old, built like skepticism was a physical trait, extending one hand to Zara while making uninterrupted eye contact. "But FR though," he said, before any greeting had fully landed. "What's your credit score?" Aunt Denise asked about the wedding before confirming there would be a wedding. Various cousins circled at various distances, processing Zara with the specific curiosity of people who had waited years to see who Malik Cole would actually bring home. Zara moved through all of them like someone who had been born for exactly this room. She was warm without performing warmth. She was interested without performing interest. She remembered names after hearing them once. She laughed at the right moments and went quiet at the right moments, and within 45 minutes had gathered more genuine affection from the Cole family than Malik had managed to maintain in years of careful management. Malik watched this from the edge of the yard with the expression of a man whose spreadsheet was yielding results he had not inputted and could not explain. Then Grandma Loretta arrived. She entered the gathering the way a verdict enters a courtroom, preceded by reputation. Announced. By the behavior of everyone around her, the crowd adjusting and straightening and falling into a different quality of attention. Even Malik, who did not stand up straighter for anyone, stood up straighter. Grandma Loretta Cole was a small woman who occupied enormous space, and she moved through the yard with the unhurried confidence of someone who had been the most important person in every room she had entered since approximately 1987. As she looked at Malik. She looked at Zara. She looked at their hands, which were not touching, which she noted. Then she settled into her chair and summoned them both with a single gesture that was not technically a gesture, more of a stillness that made moving toward her feel inevitable. The interrogation that followed had the structure of a congressional hearing and the warmth of something much older and more personal. Grandma Loretta asked questions that were not the questions they appeared to be. She watched Zara's hands. She watched Malik's face. She watched the space between them with the attention of a woman reading a language everyone else in the room had forgotten they knew. Then she slid a small notepad across the table to Zara. It read, "I know he paid you. Blink twice if you need help." Zara blinked twice. She blinked twice because she was nervous and her body betrayed her completely. It was the most honest, most unperformed, most genuinely human thing she had done since arriving. And Grandma Loretta, who had been watching people perform for the Cole family for 6 decades, recognized the real thing at 40 paces. She decided, in that exact moment, with the double blink still hanging in the air between them, that this was the one she would help. She would be patient about it, but she would help. The family photo required hand-holding. Nobody said this explicitly. It was simply understood, the kind of understanding that exists in families where certain things are communicated through arrangement rather than instruction. Malik reached for Zara's hand with the specific stiffness of a man who had not held a hand romantically in front of his family and was discovering, in real time, that this was a skill gap in his otherwise comprehensive profile. Deshaun, standing 3 feet to their left, leaned toward the cousin beside him. "Bro looks like he's escorting her to the electric chair," he whispered. The cousin agreed. Grandma Loretta, 6 feet away, heard everything and filed it without reaction. What Malik did not notice, because he was focused on the structural challenge of appearing naturally affectionate in front of 17 family members, was that somewhere between the first photo and the moment after it, Zara's hand had stopped being tense. She had simply, quietly, without announcement, started holding his hand instead of performing holding his hand. Her thumb moved slightly. Once. Without thinking. He noticed later. Much later. At 11 p.m. in the hallway when he was supposed to be asleep, and instead found himself standing with one hand braced against the wall, replaying a moment that had lasted approximately 3 seconds and somehow occupied significantly more space than that. The origin story disaster happened the following afternoon, triggered by Aunt Denise and a question that was meant to be simple. How did they meet? Malik opened his mouth. He had prepared a 52-word answer. He had counted the words. He had timed the delivery. He had identified the natural pause points and the optimal moments for warmth. "A pottery class," Zara said. Malik closed his mouth, opened it, closed it again. "Oh, how romantic," Aunt Denise said. "What were you making?" Zara, who had never done pottery in her life, did not hesitate. "Bowls," she said. "Big ones." Malik is actually very good with his hands. She looked at him with an expression of complete sincerity. "At pottery." Malik smiled the smile of a man being slowly and publicly dismantled while unable to object to any of it. The story evolved. To a different cousin, 30 minutes later. "We actually met at Popeye's." The cousin frowned. "Wait, I thought it was a pottery class." Zara did not blink. The pottery class was inside a Popeye's. It was a pop-up. Very underground. Very Chicago. Malik appeared from a different direction like a malfunction in reality, arriving just in time to hear the words underground and Chicago and understand with cold clarity that the situation had escalated beyond the briefing document's projected parameters. "She means we met at a community event near a Popeye's," he started. "The spicy chicken inspired us both creatively," Zara said, with the conviction of a woman reporting established historical fact. The cousin nodded. Fully believed. Filed it away as a good story. "Malik, Zara. Zara. It was a moment, Malik. Don't erase that." Later in their hallway, Malik stood with his arms crossed and the expression of a man whose project management system had failed him in a new and creative way. "Pottery. Popeyes. What is the third location going to be?" "A Build-A-Bear." Zara raised her eyebrows. "Don't give me ideas." He stared at her. "I gave you one story. 52 words. I counted." She turned to face him and her voice shifted slightly, the performance thinning just enough that something real showed through underneath. "Malik, nobody believes a 52-word love story. Love stories are messy, contradictory, a little unhinged. Your family believed me because it felt real." Malik was quiet. Then, the Popeyes felt real. He hadn't meant to say that. He knew he hadn't meant to say that approximately half a second after saying it. But it was already in the air between them, and Zara heard it the way it was actually meant, which was not the way it was technically worded. "The spicy chicken felt real, Malik," she said, softer now. "There's a difference." He went to bed with a headache. She went to bed having made 4 new family friends, and one feeling she wasn't ready to name yet. The cooking scene happened on day 2. Grandma Loretta found Zara alone and invited her to help with dinner, which was not an invitation. It was an interrogation with seasoning. The gumbo was already on the stove when Zara arrived, and Grandma Loretta was stirring it with the unhurried energy of a woman who had been patient about many things for many years and was nearly done being patient about this particular one. "What does Malik do?" Grandma Loretta said, without looking up. "That drives you absolutely crazy." Zara knew she should deflect. She had the briefing document. Page 7 covered this exact scenario with 3 suggested response frameworks. She lasted for seconds. "He sent me a calendar invite for our anniversary dinner," she said, with a pre-dinner briefing, and a debrief after. Grandma Loretta stopped stirring. The kitchen went very still. "A debrief," Grandma Loretta said. "With bullet points," Zara said. Grandma Loretta sat down. She sat down the way people sit down when news has given them a physical weight they need to distribute across a chair, the eye in the hallway. Malik had been standing for 32 seconds. He had heard everything. He was currently assessing his options, which included walking into the kitchen, walking out of the house entirely, or walking in the direction of the nearest large body of water. He chose the kitchen. This was the first genuinely unscheduled decision he had made in approximately 3 years. "Grandma, I can explain." "A debrief, Malik. It was for efficiency. I was just telling her." Zara started, with the energy of a woman attempting damage control 3 seconds too late. "How organized you are." Malik looked at her directly. "You were absolutely not." Grandma Loretta stood up. "Sit down," she said. "Both of you. I am going to teach you what a relationship actually is, and neither of you is going to enjoy it." They sat. Zara reached into her purse for the Cheetos. Malik stared at the ceiling with the expression of a man being restructured against his will and unable to identify the correct complaint form. Grandma Loretta talked for 45 minutes. She named Malik's fear out loud, and he did not deny it. She named Zara's fear out loud, and Zara opened her mouth to make a joke, held it for 1 full second, and then closed her mouth again. Grandma Loretta noted the closed mouth and said nothing about it, which was itself the most important thing she could have said. Afterward, they sat on the porch, not talking. The night sounds filling the space around them. Music from inside, laughter from somewhere across the yard, the ordinary ongoing life of a family gathering that didn't know it was providing the backdrop for something significant. Neither of them performed. Neither reached for a framework or a punchline. They just sat, and the silence between them, for the first time, felt like a place rather than a gap. The last night of the reunion came quickly, the way last nights always do. The uncle had been waiting for his moment all weekend and recognized it the instant the evening settled into a particular warmth. Bobby Caldwell filled the yard. Deshaun appeared at Malik's shoulder with the subtlety of a man who had been planning this for days. Grandma Loretta, from her position in the lawn chair she had occupied like a throne since day 1, gave a single nod. Small, definitive, as though the universe had just confirmed her itinerary. Malik walked toward Zara. "Would you like to, if you say engage in a brief social dancing activity?" Zara said. "I will walk into that lake." The pause that followed was the pause of a man locating a version of himself that didn't communicate in corporate language. "Dance with me," he said. Zara smiled. "See? Was that so hard?" Malik said, with complete sincerity, "Extraordinarily." They danced badly at first. Malik had the rhythmic confidence of a man who had studied the concept of dancing without fully committing to the experience of it. Zara was patient in a way that was also somehow deeply funny. Then something settled. The stiffness left. The song changed to something slower, and neither of them stepped back. The family went quiet in the specific way families do, the laughter tapering, the conversations dropping to murmurs. Everyone suddenly finding something to look at that was in the general direction of the dance floor. "We're good at this," Zara said quietly. "We're good at a lot of things," Malik said. "Don't make it weird." "I'm not making it weird. You're using your board meeting voice." "This is not my board meeting voice." "Malik." "Zara." She looked at him. He looked at her. The question that had been underneath every single moment of the entire weekend finally surfaced. "Are we still pretending?" The pause that followed was the longest one Malik Cole had allowed himself since his father died. Then, "I stopped pretending approximately 3 days ago." I didn't want to put it in the briefing document. Zara laughed. Not the deflecting laugh. Not the performing laugh. The real one. The one that started somewhere in her chest and took her whole face with it. The one she couldn't manufacture and couldn't contain. Malik watched it happen and looked, for the first time all weekend, entirely unguarded. Like the person underneath the title was standing right there in the yard, visible, unhidden, waiting to see what she'd do with him. Then the wolf whistle. Then Grandma Loretta's voice, finally, carrying across 3 counties without effort. Then heat wave on the AUX cord, right on time, because the uncle had been holding that song in reserve since Friday. The moment evaporated. They both stepped back. They drove back to the city being very normal about it. Zara watched the window. Malik drove with both hands on the wheel, which he never did. Nothing was resolved. Everything was different. That combination was the most dangerous thing in the history of human relationships. Tuesday morning. The NDA termination paperwork on Zara's desk. She stared at it for 45 minutes while the Cheetos beside her went stale, which was the clearest possible indicator of the severity of the situation, because Zara Banks had never in her life let a bag of Cheetos go stale. She signed it, told herself this was the clean exit, the professional conclusion. She then stress-ate an entire replacement bag and opened her laptop. Draft 1. Dear Malik, thank you for the experience. Gone. Draft 5. Hey, so the fake wife thing was fun. Gone. Draft 9. Per your last email, stared at for 4 minutes. Gone. Draft 14. I think I might be in love with you, but that is above my pay grade as an intern, so disregard. The finger hovered. The send button waited. Gone. Draft 17. Best wishes going forward. She sent draft 17 at 9:04 a.m. The same time the original email had gone out. She didn't notice. We noticed. Malik read it 3 times. Called his assistant in. Does best wishes going forward mean what I think it means? His assistant chose her words with surgical care. It means she's letting you go, sir. Malik said, that's what I thought. Then, leave. He sat at his desk for 23 unproductive minutes, which was 23 minutes longer than he had ever sat at his desk without doing anything. Then he called his brother. How do I write an email? Malik said. That isn't an email. Then don't write it, Deshaun said. I communicate via email. Then maybe that's the problem, bro. Malik was quiet for a long time. She's going to laugh at me. She's going to laugh with you. She told you that. There's a difference. Pay attention. He hung up. He opened his email. He committed. Because he was Malik Cole. And Malik Cole, once he decided, finished, he wrote it 11 times. The 8th had 3 bullet points, and he deleted it immediately. The 9th started with pursuant to our recent arrangement, and he sat with the shame of that specific word choice for several minutes. The 11th version had 0 bullet points, 0 subject line maneuvering, 0 frameworks. It was just him, unformatted, unmanaged, without a single piece of armor on. It was the bravest thing he had written since his father's eulogy. Zara. I've written this 11 times. The first 7 were too formal. The 8th had 3 bullet points, and I deleted it immediately. The 9th started with pursuant to our recent arrangement, and I want you to know I sat with the shame of that for several minutes. So, here is the unformatted version. You walked into my office with hot Cheetos like they were going to protect you from me. They did not protect you. But they should have, because I have been a problem for you since that moment, and I think you know that. You told 438 people I had a good jaw. I have thought about that more than any merger, acquisition, or earnings report in recent memory. That should tell you something. It tells me something. You made my grandmother laugh so hard she spilled her sweet tea. You remembered my brother's middle name after he said it once. You held my hand at that dinner like you meant it, and I don't think you knew you'd stop performing. I noticed. I didn't say anything because I was also not performing, and I didn't know what to do with that. I am not good at this. I am, as you accurately identified, a person who communicates via subject line, and I recognize that as a personal failing I am actively addressing. But I am very good at knowing what I want. I'd like to discuss. Malik. P.S. I Googled Vibe Guide. I have completed one. The results were forwarded to myself. You were the only variable that made the outcomes make sense. P.P.S. I still hate the word bestie, and I will not be using it. This is a non-negotiable. 9:47 a.m. on a Wednesday. Zara sat at her intern desk with 2 empty Cheetos bags beside her, and an orange tint on her keyboard that told the story of the last 48 hours without requiring any additional narration. Her email pinged. From Malik Cole, CEO. To Zara Banks. Subject, per my last email. She stared at the subject line for 10 full seconds. Then she opened it. She read it once. Made a sound that was not a word. Read it again. Picked up a random piece of paper from her desk and fanned her face with it. Read the PS 3 times in a row, very slowly, mouthing the words. Read the PPS and laughed so suddenly and so completely that the entire intern bullpen turned to look at her simultaneously. And then, because she was Zara Banks. Because Zara Banks acted fast and thought slightly after. Because this had always been her greatest flaw and, in this exact moment, her greatest gift, she hit reply all. To 438 employees. Again, her reply appeared on screen as it was sent, word by word. Malik, I wrote 17 drafts of an email to you and sent you best wishes going forward, like you were a LinkedIn connection. I want you to know that draft 14 said, I think I might be in love with you, and I deleted it, and I have been in physical pain about that decision since Tuesday. You danced with me to Bobby Caldwell like you'd been practicing. You hadn't been practicing, I could tell, but you tried, and that was somehow more attractive than if you'd been good at it. You gave me a 17-page briefing document with a glossary, and I used page 8 as a placemat, and you knew and you didn't say anything, and I think about that all the time. You called my business idea underdeveloped, and it hurt, because it was the first time I told anyone, and you were the person I told, and I think that means something. Grandma Loretta told me you've been lonely for a long time. She said it like she was giving me a job. I don't think she was wrong. I have hot Cheeto dust on my keyboard right now. I'm telling you this so you— I know, he said. A pause. Draft 14. Malik, you wrote that you were in love with me, he said. And you sent me best wishes going forward. Zara looked at him. Her jaw shifted. Her chin lifted slightly. The specific movement of someone preparing to defend something they know cannot be fully defended. In my defense. Zara. The word landed softly. Not a command. A name. Just her name, said by someone who knew the person it belonged to. I panicked, she said. I know, he said. I sent a subject line apology. We're both disasters. Something broke open in her chest that she had been holding closed since Tuesday. The laugh came out of it, the real one, helpless and warm. You're a very organized disaster. You're a very loud disaster. I am a charismatic disaster. That too, he said, and there was almost a smile, right at the edge of it. The laughter settled. The room went quiet again, but differently. Not the silence of 47 people holding their breath, but the silence of two people standing in something they had both stopped pretending wasn't real. The vibe guide, Malik, she said softly. You actually did a vibe guide. The results were comprehensive. What did they say? The pause that followed was the most honest pause in the history of Cole Media Group. That I have been trying to manage something that doesn't want to be managed, he said. And that I should stop trying. He took one step closer. This is the part, Zara said, her voice very quiet now, where you say something real without a bullet point. I'm aware. No subject line. I know, Zara. Just, I'm in love with you. The words came out without framework, without preamble, without a single protective layer between him and them. You walked in here with Cheetos and bad email habits, and you made my grandmother spill her sweet tea, and you told 438 people about my jaw, and I have been absolutely finished since the moment you said, per my last email, back to me like it was a threat. I am in love with you, and I have no framework for it, and I don't care. Zara's eyes were very bright. That was 0 bullet points, she said. Record low. I'm proud of you. Are you going to say it back, or are you going to make a joke? The pause. The real one. The one she didn't fill immediately, which was itself the most significant thing she had done all weekend. Both, she said. I'm going to do both. He started to say her name, and she continued before he could. I'm in love with you, Malik Cole. You laminated a briefing document for me. Nobody has ever laminated anything for me. That's my love language apparently. I didn't know until now. He laughed. It started somewhere in his chest, and came out completely unguarded. Full and real and unmanaged. The laugh of a person who had stopped performing entirely. Zara went still for a moment. She looked at him the way you look at something you've been searching for without knowing you were searching. There he is, she said quietly. What? The Malik before the title. He kissed her. She kissed him back with hot Cheeto dust on her fingers, and he absolutely did not care. Outside the door, 47 people stood in the hallway in complete silence. Someone whispered, "Should we clap?" Someone else whispered back, "Give it a second." They gave it a second. Then they clapped. All 47 of them, in a hallway on the third floor of Cole Media Group, applauding two people who had finally, reluctantly, completely gotten out of their own way. The loops closed quietly, the way the best endings do, not with announcements, but with confirmations. Grandma Loretta's phone rang. Her face settled into something that looked like the completion of a long project. She updated the will. Zara didn't know yet. She would find out eventually. Grandma Loretta would tell her in person, over gumbo, in a kitchen that smelled like every good thing. The company's Slack got its pinned message, 438-0. Nobody unpinned it. Nobody would. The number lived there permanently, a small monument to a Tuesday morning that changed everything. Zara's Google Doc, the one she had never shown anyone, the business plan for a boutique PR firm that centered black creatives. She showed it to Malik on a Thursday evening, across his kitchen table, with her hands slightly unsteady and zero jokes to protect herself with. He read it completely. Then he said, "It's a good idea. It needs work, but it's a very good idea." She pitched it to his board 6 weeks later with a full deck, proper infrastructure, and one very good joke in slide 4. Cole Media Group became her first investor. Malik sat in the back of the boardroom and watched her command a room of people who underestimated her and understood, somewhere in the precise center of his chest, what he had almost missed. 6 months later, Sunday morning, his apartment. He was making coffee with the energy of a man following a very specific protocol. She was sitting on the counter doing nothing useful, eating Cheetos, narrating his coffee-making process to an audience of 0. Her phone buzzed. She looked at it. Her eyes went wide. "Malik. Did you just send me a calendar invite? It's for dinner. Thursday." She read it aloud, slowly. "Event, dinner. Dress code, whatever you want. Briefing document, none. Debrief, none. Notes, just you." The kitchen went quiet. He still hadn't turned around, but his ears had gone slightly red. "Accept the invite, Zara." She accepted it. Then she screenshotted it and sent it to her best friend with the caption, "Girl, he's never sending another subject line apology as long as he lives. He is fixed. The jaw and the character development. I am going to cry." She sent it to the right person this time. She was getting better. Not much, but a little. And for two people who communicated entirely in armor, one laminated, one laughing, a little turned out to be more than enough. Grandma Loretta was right about everything. She always was. She had already told them this. Multiple times. She would tell them again. This story, underneath all its comedy and chaos and hot Cheeto dust, is really about one thing. The distance between the draft you delete and the one you finally send. Malik spent years building a fortress so impenetrable that even he couldn't find the door. Zara spent years performing confidence so convincingly that even she forgot what she actually felt underneath it. Two different kinds of armor. The same fear. The fear of being fully seen and found wanting. What changed them was not each other, not exactly. It was the safety they created for each other. A space where his frameworks were gently, persistently dismantled. Where her deflections were noticed and waited out. Where honesty was received instead of punished. That is what love actually does, at its best. It doesn't fix you. It makes it safe enough for you to stop pretending you don't need fixing. The bravest thing Malik ever did had nothing to do with building an empire. It was laughing, openly, fully, unguarded, in front of another person. The bravest thing Zara ever did had nothing to do with surviving chaos. It was showing someone her Google Doc without making a single joke about it. And draft 14, the one you deleted, the one you replaced with best wishes going forward, that one deserved to be sent. Maybe not to Malik Cole specifically, but to whoever your Malik Cole is. The honest version. The one without the subject line. The one that starts with what you actually mean. Send it next time. Thank you for spending 40 minutes with Zara and Malik and Grandma Loretta and the 47 people who didn't grab their things on the way out the door. Thank you for staying until the calendar invite that just said, just you. Thank you for being the kind of person who roots for two emotionally avoidant people to finally get out of their own way, which probably says something very good about who you are. If this story found you at the right moment, share it with someone who needs to hear it. And if you dropped a number in the comments earlier, We hope it wasn't 17. 17 was the safe one. The honest one was 14. Always.